So here we go. Well, I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy schedule to join us this evening. This is our very first webinar for Morgan and Mas Realty Group. For the few of you guys that don't know me, my name's Mike Morgan. I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and of course, my partner Brenda Mas there in Los Angeles. And we're here to teach you about how to build a portfolio out of state investment portfolio. I'm sorry, build a profitable out of state investment portfolio. And we can go ahead and move on to the next slide there and just kind of give you an idea what we're going to be doing tonight. Going to be going over quite a few things, a lot of information, but I'm going to take our time and going to have plenty of time for questions afterwards. What few of the things that we're going to be going over: why out of state? There's so much more affordable properties in some states than others, which is a good reason to check out of state. We're going to go over investment options. There's so many to choose from. It doesn't matter what your niche is. We can work with you no matter what your investment strategy is. Number three, I'm going to talk to you about selecting a market. You know, Chattanooga may not be the market for you. Although we very much hope it is for you, but it may not be the market for you. But we'd like to educate folks, and that way they can check other markets out as well if that fits their needs. We're going to go over how to build a team, which is one of the most important parts of doing your out-of-state investing. Implementations of how we're going to do things. We're going to talk to you about our market, market reports, things like that, give you an idea of what you can look at here. And then, of course, give you we have some good examples of investors that we've worked with in the past that have a great cash flow. They have appreciation as well. And then, of course, after everything, we're going to set up. If you have a question, we're going to hang in here as long as we need to make sure we answer every question you guys have, if any. And we can just move right on into this one. And again, just to tell you a little bit about us, I'm Mike Morgan. I specialize in representing both out-of-state and local investors. I have a focus on identifying opportunities in long-term, mid-term BRRRRs, fix and flips, looking for land suitable for developments, you name it. If it's real estate, I can find it for you. And this is where I'll kind of let Brenda step in here and introduce herself, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mike. So I'm Brenda. Like Mike mentioned, I'm actually in Los Angeles. That is where I reside. And I have been in multifamily really my entire adult life professionally. So I've been in development. I do syndications. So I oversee our syndications where we have over 80 investors. And these are all multifamily based. But for our personal portfolio, we've actually gone out of state. So that's actually how I met Mike, is we are investors in Chattanooga and also in regions surrounding Chattanooga, so in Georgia as well. And, we're here to really just provide education, because I truly feel, and we truly feel, that an educated investor will always, do well and is able to then carry on and build wealth and pass it down to the generations to come. So our goal here today is to educate you, and hopefully you learn something that you can take in whichever market you choose to invest in, but so that you can actually see the, benefits of investing out of state. So the reason we really put this webinar together, aside from, just educating you, is, according to Stash, they did a survey, and 90% of Americans want to build wealth. But over half of those respondents just don't know where to start. And I would say that in today, the current market where we are, people are even more confused, right? So we have high interest rates, property values are really high as well. So there are a lot of people that are sitting in the sidelines. A lot of them don't know how to move forward given the interest rates being so high. And what we're seeing is, well, there's talks now where interest rates are going to be dropping fairly soon, maybe not as soon as people want them to be, because I do feel that, they're going to be cautious about how rapidly they reduce those rates. But what's going to happen is when those rates do come down, obviously there's going to be people that are now going to flood the market and they're going to want to purchase property. So what is that going to do to property values? Obviously, the demand is going to increase, and we have a supply issue where inventory is really low in the US. So obviously, by default, that means that property values are going also to increase. So although people are hoping that those property values are going to drop, unfortunately, because of the inventory being so low and the demand going to increase with those rates coming down, we're going to actually see property values increase. So if you purchase, say, like a primary single family home, there's appreciation there, right? Especially if you got that really low interest rate back in like the 2020, 2021. However, those that didn't purchase real estate are going to find themselves in an even more difficult spot. So we're a nation of renters, really, and that's what it's going to be. So as an investor, that sadly is also a great opportunity for us to invest, to be able to take advantage of appreciation. But we're also going to see rent yields go up, where renters are unfortunately going to have to pay a lot more because the supply is just not there. So we decided, this is a great opportunity to show investors how to invest, right? And because those values are so high for some of us locally, we have to go out of state. So why out of state, right? I mentioned some of it. Here is the affordability table. As you can see, as of the end of the first quarter of this year, the average home sales price, so this is what they actually closed for, it was 513,000, just over 513,000. Now, if you're in Los Angeles, you're almost paying $1 million for a home. If you're in New York, a little bit under that. Now, in the markets that we tend to invest in, Chattanooga, Cleveland, you see that those prices are actually under that average home sales price. So we have some opportunity there where someone in Los Angeles or New York or in these higher valued markets can go and actually take their money, their funds, right, their hard-earned money, and invest it in areas where they can actually afford to invest. Because someone like myself, if I wanted to invest locally in Los Angeles, I would have to wait a long time to build up that down payment to be able to afford to invest locally. And of course, we'll go into other reasons why we also choose not to invest locally, some of them being the laws associated with renter rights and whatnot. But we will also discuss why it makes sense to go out of state to these other regions. So these are the opportunities that we see. Obviously, when you go outside of like California or sometimes even Florida, New York, these higher metro expensive areas, you get to find these higher returns. Why? Because property prices are much lower. And so if you do make an effort to really search and find a good market, you will see that there is appreciation in some of these markets. And in some of them, the yield, the rent yield, like we discussed, is already there, even with these high interest rates. We're seeing that certain markets, like the Chattanooga market, appreciation is skyrocketing and also rent is going up at the same time. Another item is these tax benefits. Now, I'm not going to go into, the tax benefits that come with investing in real estate today. That will be in a future webinar. But for investments per se, you will see that in these regions, you pay lower property taxes. There's also either no or very little state income tax in these regions. And of course, because it's not one of these bigger markets, it's not as saturated. So there's a lot less competition and you can find a lot of opportunity. So Mike, I'll let you go on to the investment options. You're muted, Mike.
So sorry about that. Thank you, Brenda. Next, we're going to get into your investment options, the different options you have to choose from. We'll start with long term, which you can do that in single family or multifamily. We have everything properties from light rehab, turnkey, um, complete gut jobs, you name it. If it's your niche, we can find it in long term. Um, what you do, what we'll talk about with the long term. If you find something with light rehab, say it needs just, I don't know, it has the Formica countertops, maybe the bathrooms need to be updated. We can put you in contact with contractors who can help you do that rehab to get that rent rate up to the market value. We do midterms. You know, the midterms are furnished rentals for traveling professionals such as travel nurses, things of that nature. Chattanooga, we are packed full of hospitals. Whether you're in Hickson, Red Bank, East Brainerd, Collegedale, Ottawa, Eastridge, it doesn't matter. They have their own hospitals and they're their own entities. So there's plenty of the midterm rental. Midterm rental market is really good here in Chattanooga as well. And of course, we have the BRRRRs, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. We'll go and find a property, just throwing numbers out there. For example, say you find $100,000 property in a C-class neighborhood, 3 bedroom, 1 bath. You can rehab that out. You can expect to $80,000 to $100,000 in rehab with an ARV of around 225, maybe 235 if you're lucky. 225 to 230 would be a good number. You go in there, you do your rehab, get a renter in there, refinance it, and what you do with your equity, you go ahead and you find you another BRRRR opportunity and just keep right on going. And the BRRRR method is a hard method. It does require some work, but it's very lucrative. It's something you can get in, and it just gets really addictive, and you just keep right on going with it. And let's go on to the next slide if we could. We also house hacking with multifamily unit investments. You live in the property and rent out the other side, the other unit. There's all kinds of programs through lenders that you can get as far as when you're house hacking. Of course, the fix and flip. Um, whether it's a complete gut job or a little cosmetic to build it up a little bit, we can find properties of that nature. We also have contacts for hard money lenders, conventional loan lenders as well. You guys forgive me. And then, of course, short-term rental market. We do have a short-term rental market. It's not the best in Chattanooga. There are surrounding areas that we could recommend, as well as there will be a few short-term that come up for sale. If they have a contract for it, a person can put that under contract and get that short-term rental. But if short-term is for you, we can always talk and find a location for you and help you out with that.
Well, I will be reviewing how to select a real estate market, right? You want to invest. What are the type of markets that are ideal for an investor? So these are what we typically look for when, whether it's a syndication or for our own personal portfolio, these are the things that I personally feel are absolutely necessary. One, there must be population growth. So there must be a net migration into the area, and that's usually driven by job growth, right? So there's a lot of new companies moving into the area, and you want to make sure that they're not really focused on just one single industry. You want it to be a diverse job growth market, meaning, there's tech jobs coming in, there's industrial, there is, whether it's office, blue collar, white collar, you want to diverse because you don't want one sector or one type of industry to go down or go through a depression period. And then now the entire region is really affected. So having good population growth driven by good job growth is really important. And obviously, when those two occur, naturally you will have appreciation of your property values. So that's always very important. You want appreciation. There's a lot of markets you will find where, they're in these more affordable areas. Chattanooga is still very affordable, so that's why you put affordability. However, they don't have a lot of appreciation. So you do want some appreciation because you want to be able to have equity in your property. And the next one is market stability. Like I mentioned, having that diverse industries coming into the region make it a lot more stable. And next one, very important, especially if you are from California, you know how important having landlord-friendly laws are. For example, it can take 6 months to a year to evict a tenant here in California. However, in Tennessee, what I've noticed is 30 days. We're able to get a tenant out in 30 days, sometimes shorter, and 30 days tends to be the max. Tax incentives, like I mentioned, no state tax, but also, just really quickly investing in real estate, you get that depreciation, right? And the more your property appreciates as well, that depreciation really is suitable for you as an investor. So you get to depreciate some of your taxes over time. And of course, low insurance costs. And by that, I mean, you really have to look at natural disasters, right? Those are very important. So if someone invested, say, in Florida, their insurance just skyrocketed this past, 2, 3 years. And it really just cut into their cash flow. For example, even in some areas like California, there's fires. A lot of homeowners can't get insurance anymore. Or Texas, there's other, weather related issues that really push insurance costs up. So underwriting your numbers, making sure that they're very adequate for your cash flow is very important, but investing in these regions where you already know that there's very low risk of some of these items or they've already been taken into account and your insurance cost is low is a really great way to select a market. If you have all of these items, you're pretty much set. So building a team.
Okay. And now we're going to talk about building a team. This is the important part of out of state investing. Now, I would like to add that, building a team is optional. You can always go on your own. You can pick your own contractors, property managers if you would like to manage it yourself. I mean, you're more than welcome to do that. But what we always suggest is starting out building a team. That would start whether it be Morgan and Maz or another real estate agent or a team. Get with a good agent who knows what they're doing. They know how to work with investors. There's a lot of good agents out there, and they're the number one agent for their brokerage and everything. But what they do is they deal with primary low residencies. They don't know that working with investors is a whole different world. I mean, there's a difference between Bob Buyer wanting to buy a house to move into and live the rest of his life compared to this person over here who wants to build a portfolio. There's a big difference between that. So first thing, pick your great agent to work with, and that agent should have the contacts to get you in touch with lenders, whether it be hard money or commercial or conventional lenders, the property managers, general contractors, whether it's just a general contractor or even a specialty contractor, you'll have those kind of contacts. And of course, your insurance agent. And what we do is when we build a team, um, myself or Brenda, we would be the leader of that team. We always want to make sure that our clients know that it's your transaction, not ours, but we're the people who are going to make sure that the transaction process goes as smoothly as possible. We're going to coordinate with everyone. If we put something under contract, once we get that team built, I'd work with the property manager and the contractor, coordinate with them to get everything taken care of, which is the implementation of how we do it. I got a little ahead of myself. Um, We'll do site selection. We're designed for long distance investors to complete the buying process remotely. We'll set you up on email searches. We get your search criteria, what you're looking for, and set you up on a daily email search. That way, you're not having to search the MLS and Bluefin and Realtor.com, all that all day long. We'll have something coming to you every single day. As long as there's a new listing, you will get that listing if it's in your search criteria. Once we find the property for you, we'll go do a video tour. Let you look at it. We'll upload that to our Google Drive and share the photo and the video. What we try to do is try to get a 60-second video of outside, a 60-second video of each floor of the property, and then at least 2 pictures of each room. Get that sent to you. If the numbers still look good to you and everything looks good and you want to move forward, we work with home inspectors and get that scheduled for you. We'll have a lot of our inspectors can have the inspection report that evening, at the latest the next morning. If you're looking at multifamily and you have 4 to 6 units, it may take a little bit longer than that. But for a single family or duplex, 9 times out of 10, you get the inspection by that time. And we've cultivated a network of trusted partners to ensure the seamless management of your investments, which are, again, the lenders, property inspectors, property managers, insurance specialists, and general contractors. And okay, resources. We're dedicated to empowering our investors by proving a wealth of resources, including market studies, vendor networks, educational webinars, and investor networking.
So our markets, right? So we primarily focus in Southeast Tennessee and North Georgia, and we'll mention why. So for example, this does not have to be your market, but if it has similarities, it can be a very profitable market for you. So Chattanooga, why do we love Chattanooga? I love Chattanooga. I can actually live in Chattanooga, maybe not in the summer with the humidity, but otherwise I do plan on spending time there. So Chattanooga is, a gig city. A lot of tech companies are moving in the area. And of course, it's attracting a lot of other industries to come to the region. There's Amazon, there's Volkswagen, we have FedEx. A lot of these bigger companies are coming there. Why? Because of no state income tax, right? Which also helps us. But also, they're putting in a lot of investment into building the city. And so it is the first gig city, meaning, they're very well equipped with Wi-Fi, internet throughout the region. It's also been named one of the best places to travel in 2023. And I can tell you it's beautiful. It's majestic. There's lots of hiking trails, lots of river activities. There's a lot for you to do with your family. So when there are tourist destinations like this, it's going to attract a lot of other not just tourists to come, but also individuals to migrate into the city. So that's very important. And obviously, it's a scenic city, like I mentioned, beautiful, but also there's a lot of events that are happening. So it's not just very focused on, say, we are a very tech type of city. They're also into arts and music. So the people there are very kind and generous, and the city itself is very willing to help investors. So going to City Hall, getting answers, you can get them that same day. Another reason, like I mentioned, population growth. It's very important. So if Tennessee is one of the regions you're interested in investing, just know Chattanooga is the second highest as far as population growth. Obviously, affordability is still under that national average that we mentioned of 510,000. Chattanooga is in the 344,000. We mentioned taxes are low, right? Insurance is low. You get cash flow, you get appreciation. We mentioned landlord friendly. So it's hitting all those marks that make a market favorable towards an investor, right? And there's top employers, like we mentioned, it's attracting a lot of these bigger companies. And more importantly, it's really 2 hour drive from Nashville, 2 hour drive from Atlanta. Very easy to get to different metro areas. And that's why it's also attracting a lot of individuals to move to the region. And as you can see in the graph on the right, it's been growing steadily and it's expected to continue to grow. As a matter of fact, today I received a syndication opportunity in Chattanooga, which I was surprised. I didn't realize syndicators were in Chattanooga just yet. And they were quoting, they're expected to resell their project in 5 years at 200,000 a door, and they're purchasing it now at just over 100,000 a door. So they're expected to almost double their funds, their profit in 5 years. So obviously investing in Chattanooga, like we mentioned, these are the type of opportunities that are really making it attractive to investors like myself, right? Long-term rentals are really great. They're steady. Someone like myself who cannot be there all the time and I can rely on my team. I want to find those rentals that, the rent is growing. I have a great property manager that I can rely on who can handle the issues that I don't want to handle. Toilets, right? I don't want to get those calls about the toilet breaking down, their AC breaking down. Of course, if you are that type of investor who does not want to, or who wants to be a little more hands-on, and you want to save on the cost of a property manager, you can do that. But for the rest of us who maybe do not gravitate towards getting those middle of the night calls, this is a great market because we have the resources like we mentioned. So those long-term rentals are really great. Midterm rentals, we also have a property that is furnished, and midterm rentals, you get a lot more than long-term as far as rental per month, right? So those traveling nurses, those professionals, they're willing to pay more to be in a great location close to their jobs. And they don't want to deal with the hassle of bills and buying furniture. So, when you have a furnished rental and it's well maintained, those attract those professionals. And BRRRRs, there's a lot of opportunity here. Like I mentioned, appreciation is there. So finding these single family homes that may be 89,000, 99,000, like Mike said, putting in, 20, 30, 40,000, and now having a high appreciation where it's worth, 230. Now you have all this equity that now you can take out and then do it again, start another investment. And of course, in a few years, you refinance this original investment and you can do it again. And we can go over, more strategies in a future webinar on how to really build your wealth. Other items, house hacking, have someone else pay your mortgage. You can live there, have someone else pay your mortgage, get an even bigger tax break because, it's your homestead, you live there. So that's a great opportunity. And house flipping, a lot of opportunities with that. Short-term rentals, like Mike said, that's a lot. It's a bit trickier because regulation is always changing. So you cannot rely on purchasing a short-term rental where a lot of these sellers will sell you a short-term rental at a very high price because they're underwriting it based off of the income they're earning on that vacation rental. But then regulation changes and now you're no longer allowed to operate a short-term rental. Well, guess what? Your numbers don't work anymore. So that is why we tend to stay away from short-term rentals because cities tend to highly regulate those and they're constantly changing where these are allowed and where they're not.
Brenda, to that point, I seen on the news this evening, they just added a new regulation to short-term rentals. You have to have at least an acre of land, and that's in the whole county, in order for it to be a short-term rental. So if you're one of those who can't afford, or say someone sells it, and it's a half an acre and it's a short-term rental, they just changed the law now. You can't. It's no longer possible to do that.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. So as of May, these are the latest numbers, right? We're seeing a lot of movement happen as these interest rates, there's talk of interest rates being, coming down. We're seeing in just 1 month change. So this is a change from the previous month, which is April to May. And you can see inventory just went up. It went up 28% in 1 month. However, the days on market, how long these properties were on the market listed went down 17%. So they're coming on the market. A lot of sellers are willing to sell now, but they're not staying on the market very long. So that tells us that there's a lot of buyers that are keeping interest and seeing maybe this is the opportunity to buy. Obviously, sales prices went up 7% in 1 month. That's a huge jump. So the median price is now 344,000. And that number can be skewed because we have in Chattanooga some really high expensive homes that will drive that number higher. But what you will see is that we're able to find a lot of these deals that are far below this median sales price. So there's a lot of opportunity there for some appreciation.
Now we're going to get into some cash flowing samples of transactions that we worked with. This is one of my favorites that I've done. This property, it's a unique little property. It's in the Highland Park, Orchard Knob area, which I'd like to say also that area, it's a lot of areas in Chattanooga that they're being rejuvenated. 10 years ago, this property would have been considered in a D minus neighborhood. Now it's a C plus, almost a B, and it's just getting better over there. The purchase price on this was 460. The gentleman that purchased this property, he bought it and rehabbed it out and was about 70% done with the rehab and got relocated on his job and decided he just wanted to dump it and make a little bit of money off of it. He knew the appraisal at 560, but he still sold it for 460. He said he wanted to help the next investor out. I actually brought the second buyer to this property as well. It went for 460. They're 1 bedroom, 1 bath, appraises at 560. No washer and dryer hookups, and it's the rent now is 1,050 per unit. I'm really not for sure of what his cash on cash return is. I've reached out to him, but I haven't heard back from him yet. But this is just a good example of what you can find in multifamily in the area. And let's move on to the next one. And here is Pioneer, a 9-unit multifamily. This is a very special one. But this one was purchased for $875,000 with seller financing, and it is cash flowing. And speaking of seller financing, there's not every property, but there are opportunities for creative financing in this market. You'll occasionally find the sellers willing to do some seller financing with you with some good terms. So that's always possible. And this is one also that is some of these units are furnished that Brenda was talking about that could be used as a midterm rental as well. And Brenda, would you like to add anything about Pioneer or?
I mean, it's a great asset. It was really well taken care of. And so actually the owner, the seller lived in one of the primary units and they just kept it immaculate. So this property, we were patient, waited because they did come in at a much higher asking price. But they became realistic once they realized what the market is doing, right? So this is where being an investor really is key because you know where your numbers are going to work. And so being able to relay that to a seller and letting them, have kind of a realistic expectation over time. You just have to be a little patient. And so they put it out on the market. They realized they weren't getting any traction on it. And after several months, we reapproached them and told them, are you willing to consider the original numbers we, proposed? And at that point, they were serious, right? Because they were so overpriced. And sometimes these sellers, they, obviously they inflate their numbers. They think their properties are valued a lot more because they want to receive a lot more in funds at the end. But as an investor, you know where your numbers are going to work. And so as investors, we know we can't go above that number. And so that's why we had to come up with creative ways of making the deal work. So that's why they were willing and able to do the seller financing. And they did meet us at the price that we were willing to transact at. And so now the property is cash flowing, the numbers are realistic, and as an investor, this is a home run.
Mhm. Okay, our next example is Maplewood. This was a 10-door portfolio, 3 different locations. You had 140 Sequoia, which was a triplex, 4510 Old Mission, which is a duplex, and 202 Maplewood, which was a fiveplex. And the beauty about Maplewood, the brick house, the brick property here, you see the detached garage in the back. There's plenty of room to add on more units back there as well. They did conventional financing on Sequoia and Old Mission and some seller financing with Maplewood to make everything work. And these are great examples of value add properties. They're rent ready to move in, but you can do some value add to them, do some cosmetic work to enhance your rent, get your rent rates up to market value or above. And these are in a B class area, a really good part of town, Brainerd, which is very centralized, all in Chattanooga. And
And if I
let's
may
move
add
on
on
to the
this
next.
one, if you don't mind, Mike, on this one, if I may add, just
Mhm.
changing the property management company with the new buyer, changing the management company made wonders. Bringing in this new property manager who knows the market, knows the ways around housing, because some of these units are with housing. They were able, with zero money in to the properties, bring the rents up on all these units to market. So now it's cash flowing very nicely. And that's without any additional funds being injected into the properties.
Yes, the right property manager is definitely key. That's for sure. Here's one of our most recent. Actually, this is our most recent transaction. This is Arlington. It's 2 duplexes, right next to each other. The purchase price was $385. It ended up pricing right at $535,000, below market rent. The goal is to do rehab and get it up to market rent, which is $1,000 per unit. It is in an up and coming neighborhood, very close to hospitals and schools, within walking distance of things like that. Just another good example of value add, and the good appraisal rates at that. This one happens to be a rehab that is one of the contractors, actually our main contractor here in Chattanooga, Miguel at Elite Contractors. He does excellent work. This is a property that he bought himself and rehab flipped, and it has it on the market now. He purchased his property for 95,000. It was a 1 bedroom, 1 bath. He added a second bedroom, which includes a closet as well. I believe he said his rehab was at about 45,000, and he has it on the market for sale for 210. And Brenda and I were discussing this earlier. This property had went under contract and is now back on the market. And I found out the reason it went back on the market. The seller absolutely insisted that it had a different attic access. They wanted something else added on where they could easily walk up into the attic, and it was just more rehab to put in it. So that's the reason that one is back on the market. But I mean, this is not only a great example of what you can do with a fix and flip in Chattanooga, but this also, I would like to say, speaks volume to the contractors that we work with. We do make sure we vet all of our contractors, and we want to make sure that whoever we work with, whatever the vendor is, we want to make sure that they bring you as much value as we do. And I think this just speaks volume to the kind of work that Miguel does.
So that pretty much wraps up, the samples like we mentioned. These are some future webinars that we are going to host. And of course, if there's any demand for any other type of topics you would like us to touch on, you're very welcome to send us an email and let us know. Because of our background, obviously we can talk to multifamily investing, how to underwrite those larger multifamily deals, or even the smaller deals, right? Like 10 units and under. It's a very type of different underwriting versus a larger scale, 50 and up units up to several hundred. That's very different. We can talk about syndications 101 for those that are interested in investing in syndications or running their own syndications. We can talk about creative financing for this type of market. That has been very useful. Obviously, forming partnerships. It's very important to vet your partners. You don't want to be in a bad investment with bad partners that can really, damper the investment overall. And development, we can talk about development. And of course, in every single one of these investor webinars, we do want to have an investor meet and greet so you can all meet one another if there are any potentials for partnerships within, your groups. And I think I saw Marielle was here. I know Marielle, I don't know if you want to unmute yourself, but there is a women's group that, she's forming, or she has, where she has these female investors that come together, do group flips and whatnot. So, you can mention that if you'd like, Marielle. And of course, this is our contact information. You will receive an email from us, and feel free to text us, call us, and we can easily put together, if you're interested, no strings attached. We can send you that daily personalized listings just so you can start getting those listings, getting familiarized, so you can see what's out in the market. We do know that investors, need to get warmed up to the market and see how it works. So we would love for you to get these listings, and so you can see just what's out there. And whenever you have questions, we're here. We're an open book. We're willing to answer any questions. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We are going to be posting this on our YouTube channel because, like I mentioned, our biggest goal is really to just educate and bring more people in, right, who want to invest but may not know how. So with that said, we have our Q&A now. So if anyone has any questions, we're here.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
Hi, my name is Claudia Abendroth. I'm in Washington, D.C., and I actually am in Marielle's group. She was here, but she had to drop off. You probably know she has a newborn, so her hands are very full. Do you have experience with 1031 exchanges? And if so, I'd just be interested in what that is. I know I've been exploring it, but I think you need an attorney, and there's a lot of rules and regulations. So I'd love to hear your experience with those.
Absolutely. So 1031 exchanges is a great way to save on not having to pay some of that capital gains tax, right? From having your property appreciate over years. So that there's tax breaks where you're allowed now, if you can now reinvest your funds into a like type of investment, then you don't pay any taxes on the gains. However, you cannot touch that funds yourself. They must go through an escrow agent. So there's a lot of escrow agents that handle 1031 exchanges. And there is a time limit that you have to find a like investment. It used to be 45 days, 60 days, 6 months. So it really depends the region where you're looking to invest in, and finding a local escrow agent or attorney. Some of them, some states use attorneys versus escrow agents. Who are well versed in the 1031 exchange is super important, because you don't want to do anything that would trigger you to not qualify for those tax benefits. Does that answer your question?
It does. So how do you handle them? Do you help people find these properties within that time frame and then connect them with a escrow agent or an attorney, um, or anything else, however else you help?
So
Uh,
usually what happens is when an investor is ready to do a 1031 exchange, right? You are about to sell your property. So it's very important you get an escrow agent or a tax person involved at that point because you want to make sure that there's nothing that happens that, like I mentioned, would put your 1031 exchange at risk. And so finding that individual is very important and can be done at, at closing. They need to take over those funds. And so we work with all of that. We can find you an individual if you need. If you're interested in this market, of course, we can help you facilitate that. And then making sure that based on what they tell us, that is suitable so that it would be a like exchange, we would have to go out and find something within that time frame that they establish. So it's definitely very possible.
yes, definitely. I actually, the first example that we showed, 508 Buckley, the quadruplex, the seller had considered doing a 1031 exchange on it. And he decided this after we put it under contract. And the escrow let me know, hey, we can have this taken care of, put it as a 1031 by closing. And we were doing a 3-week closing on that. So they can definitely do it in a few weeks. And I believe the time limit in Chattanooga or Hamilton County is 45 days. And that's where our email search and our manual searching for properties for you come into play there. We would definitely priority number one on a 1031 exchange because of that time frame.
Great, thank you. I appreciate it. Very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions?
Hi, it's Marcos. When do you predict interest rates to come down?
So everyone is saying something different, right? They were, I think Marcus Milichuk the other day said it would be the fourth quarter of this year. I'm reading that I think it was Citibank is predicting a 200 basis points drop, which I think is crazy. I don't believe we'll drop 200 basis points that quickly. So I truly believe that, looking at the CPI numbers and the PPI numbers that are coming out, that's when Powell will decide when is an appropriate time. A lot of people have been predicting that it would have been earlier this year or mid this year. I don't think he's going to do it that quickly because we're in a very, I would say, sensitive time period where even a small drop in interest rate may result in a huge jump in inflation. So I think he really has to be very careful on how he does it. I would guess he would wait at least another quarter. We'll see. I believe CPI numbers are coming out on Friday and we will get a better idea. But I don't think it's going to be very quickly. I think it's going to take, it's going to be incremental over time. And so I do think he has to drop them. He's going to be under pressure, especially coming up with the elections. So he'll probably drop it maybe, 25 bips close to election time is my guess. But, we don't have a crystal ball.
And one thing about the interest rates, right now we don't, at least in Chattanooga, we do not have the 2020 market where houses are flying off the shelf by the second. But we do have properties that if it's a hot property, it's listed this morning, it's gone this evening. They do not last. One thing that I try to tell investors too, if your numbers can work for this, get that interest rate, go ahead and lock it in, get the property. If you're working with a local lender here in Chattanooga, 99% of our lenders that we work with, They have no penalties for a refi, an early refi. Of course, you're going to have to pay your closing costs, but you can get the property now, refinance it, because when the interest rates go down, it's going to be crazy. There are going to be more competition like you wouldn't believe.
This is David Moss. I'm gonna add to that, piggybacking on what Brenda and Mike are saying. When it comes to investing, and obviously my wife and I invest. Right now is for us the time to invest, regardless of interest rates. Especially interest rates are slightly higher because the demand is not there. Once those interest rates drop, the demand obviously is going to increase, and subsequently those prices are going to go up, which are going to benefit us in our appreciation, and potentially be able to do a cash out refi down the line at that lower interest rate. So it's for us, it's a win-win with these current interest rates. We just have to make sure that at least we're not negative cash flowing, that we're breaking even, or some positive cash flow, because we know that soon to come it's going to be feeding frenzy. So we are looking very heavily ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's important, right? For investors, like your numbers have to work. You need to, every investor is different. What number you want to get in cash flow every month is, personal decision. For us, we look at, what could we be investing in? What's our alternative? And when we look at our alternatives, they're either a lot riskier. We like to invest in things that we can feel, touch, and see. And they're not driven by, investor sentiment, but really just hard assets for us are very important. So investing in real estate makes sense. And, like they say, like most people who build their wealth, they do it through real estate. And it's not just because of the appreciation, but it's because of the tax benefits that come with it. And those tax benefits, are written into our tax code because, that's in a sense the government telling you where they want you to direct your money, right? Where else can you invest and only put 20% down? Say that's, your down payment. Where can you invest 20% down, but receive 100% of the appreciation, or 100% of that depreciation? There's just nowhere else you can really do that. And that's why we're really big on investing in real estate.
I have another question. Can you explain, for those of us who don't know, like myself, you were talking about C-class neighborhoods, B-class neighborhoods. Maybe briefly explain that and where I could find more information on those, like more detail. Thanks.
That's a great question. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, definitely. Well, your A-class neighborhoods is going to be your best rental pool. They're going to be your best clients, but it's also going to be your smallest pool. That's your folks with a great credit report. They have CEO, district manager position, doctors, attorneys, things like that. An A-class neighborhood, you're going to look at rent rates probably 2,200, 2,800, somewhere along in that neighborhood. Of course, when you get up into the more executive suites, it's going to be more expensive. But you can count on those people. They're going to buy a house. They're going to build a house in 18 months. So you're going to have a turnover rate at approximately every 18 months. You move down to your B class. That's a very large class of people. Those are more of your management, middle management, things like that, that type of families. Rent in those are going to, we do 1,900, $2,000 a month rent rates in B class neighborhoods. There are some B class, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, that you're going to find at $2,400, $2,500 a month in rent. Those are very few areas, but we are going to find those in Chattanooga. C class, that is more of your service workers, line workers at Volkswagen, at their subcontractors, Burger Kings, custodians, things of that nature. It's going to be in the lower rent district. Rent's probably going to be for a single family, you're looking at about $1,400 a month in rent. They're the ones that are going to stick with you. They're going to be there for a long time. But of course, you kind of need to bank on a little bit of maintenance along the way in a C-class neighborhood. As far as getting that information here in the Chattanooga market, we can't actually, it's illegal for us to say this is a bad neighborhood or that school is not as good as this school. We legally we can't say that. But what we can do is we have different places that we can links that we can set you up with to give you school zone ratings, crime rate, things of that nature. And we actually ourselves we use a class map. We put a lot of time into this, and we try to update it as we go as much as possible. And we have different areas, A class, B class. We have it. There's no way on your search to do an A or a B class or a C class, but we can weed those out on our manual searches. Did that answer your question?
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Any more questions? And there's no question that's, off limits, like any, question like that was a really great question, because sometimes I think we forget that there's people just starting or dipping their toes into investing. And so when we mention these terminologies, we forget that there may be individuals who don't yet know what that means, right? So like BRRRR, that's why we had to write it out, because BRRRR is a very common term when it comes to investing, but a lot of individuals who are just getting started may not know what a BRRRR is. So that's why, we try to write it out and be as clear as possible so that anyone can understand. So any question, feel free to ask, whether it's now, text, call, email, we're always here.
Yes, definitely.
Are there any more questions? So I know that Marielle dropped off, but like I mentioned, we're talking about potentially putting some group flips together or group investments. So those are, really meant to help women who are not yet who are not yet investors, want to dip their toes, who may not feel comfortable becoming investors off the bat. But if there are other individuals who are also interested, we can also create those groups to help everyone support each other as well, because, ultimately the goal is to help everybody build some wealth. So
I have a question. Will you at some point have maybe an educational course on underwriting these deals?
I did put that on the list, so that is one of the items. There is an underwriting that's in the works. And so, we'll talk about small multifamily primarily, because the larger multifamilies are a lot more complex to underwrite. But we can start with small multifamily in the future for those interested as well.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. So if there are no more questions, we really want to thank you for, your time today to come and get educated with us. And if you need anything, of course, you can reach out to us.
Yes, yeah. I'd like to just echo that. Feel free to reach out to either one of us with any questions whatsoever. No expectations of, putting you under contract. Just give us a call, shoot us a text. We'd be happy to talk to you about anything.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.